NEXGen Future Concrete Leaders, brought to you by SmartCrete CRC. This is an event we're taking around the country, and it's all about integrating academia and industry in our concrete sector. So huge special thanks to Arup for hosting us. This is an absolutely incredible space. I think we can all leave pretty inspired after being here. I'd also like to thank our National President, Andrew Sachinthani, for coming and being part of this. It's a great event, and it's something that we've really found is beneficial, so I hope that everyone has a great night tonight and makes the most of the networks, and yeah, hopefully some nice technical chats. So I'd also like to just acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. We are in Naarm at the moment, and this is the land of the Wurundjeri people, so yes, pay our respects to them. As people keep filtering through, we're just going to kick off because there's a very jam-packed agenda. So I'd like to introduce our keynote for tonight, who is Sachi Karunarathna. Did I say that right? Yeah, please welcome her to the stage. Is that your height?
Hello everyone, thank you for being here, and thank you to SmartCrete and CIA for having me. I'm really happy to see academic representation in an industry-led event. Honestly, looking back, I wish I attended more industry-led events when I was at the uni. So today I'll briefly... that's better. Yes. Today I'll briefly introduce myself, and then Arup, and then talk about my move from academia to industry, and finally see what innovation looks like in practice. So to talk a bit about myself, so my name is Sachi. I'm a senior materials engineer at Arup. I studied civil engineering in Sri Lanka and then moved to Australia to do my PhD at the University of Melbourne. During my PhD at the uni, I worked on sustainable concrete, which is still my main focus of my work today. So my PhD was on rubberized concrete for impact-resistant road barriers to reduce damage to the vehicles and the barriers. And this is a video of a successful crash test we have done as a part of this study. The crash test works with 16 road barriers to test the performance of rubberized concrete in practice. So I really enjoyed this research, and it was hands-on and very applied, which probably explains why I eventually moved to the industry. So my journey at Arup started with when I was introduced to Arup through Chen, who was with Arup at that time, and also will also be a part of our panel discussion later today. So we initially connected through a discussion about implementing rubberized concrete in an industry project, which gave me the first impression of Arup. So later I reached out to my current team lead on LinkedIn, and I introduced myself, and we had a brief discussion, and I was fortunate enough to get a position as a materials engineer at Arup, and I have been with Arup for 2 years now. So I specialized in concrete, particularly in sustainable concrete, and I love concrete, and I think concrete is amazing. And also, it's the second used material in the world after water. So there's a huge effort currently in the industry for innovation and sustainability in concrete. And I'll talk about like what low carbon concrete here, because I'll be using that term a lot in my speech. So you can see from the graphs to my left side, so cement is only 60% from a concrete mix, but it accounts for more than 90% of carbon. So if you reduce the use of cement in concrete, you can reduce the embodied carbon of concrete. So my role involves here at Arup implementing sustainable concrete in projects, updating specifications to implement sustainable materials into the specification, and then contributing to policy development and carrying out durability assessments for infrastructure projects. I will talk about a few of these projects later in my speech. So about Arup, so you are currently at our Melbourne office. At Arup, sustainable development is at the core of everything we do. We are a global engineering consultancy firm made up of engineers, designers, advisors, and specialists who work together to shape a better world. So Arup was founded in 1946 by a British engineer with Danish roots. Today we have around 18,000 people working across 99 offices in 39 countries. So we collaborate closely with our clients and partners using technical expertise, creativity, and careful thinking to deliver better outcomes for people, planet, and projects. So here in APAC, we work across infrastructure, buildings, transport, water, energy, and materials, among many other work sectors. So innovation at Arup. One way we support innovation is through Arup University. So this is our internal research funding and also a learning platform. Arup University is formed with 5 collaborative faculties. So learning encourages continuous learning. At Arup, we believe most of our learning will occur on the job, so which is 70%. And then we learn from others, that accounts for 20%. And then we have formal learning programs and courses where we get our learnings from. Research, creating innovative solutions for our clients, planet, and the communities we serve. So each year we focus on different themes, and last year it included water and energy. So here I want to focus and then introduce innovation at Arup is not only about finding new materials. When we say innovation, it's easy to think about, oh, it's about a new binder, it's about a new SEMs, or it's about like some new technologies like 3D printing, or it's about how to use AI. These are important, I acknowledge that, but in the industry, innovation also includes how materials are tested, how to build confidence in some of these existing materials, and how the risk is managed if we use these new materials in projects, and how ideas are adopted on real world projects. So that's why at Arup, innovation does not necessarily need to be experimental. It can be a desktop study and still be a research or innovation. Another important part of how Arup innovation works is our global skills network. So we have many global skills networks, and these connect people across disciplines and regions, including materials, sustainability, digital structures, and many others. So basically, if you have any questions about a specific topic, projects, we can always post on our skills network page, and then global experts will respond to these posts with their suggestions and solutions, or even recommend and direct us to a similar project that happened in somewhere else. So it makes it much easier for us to share knowledge and move ideas from one project or a country to another. So I'll now talk about innovation in materials because that's where my work sits. So this slide shows a typical materials innovation process, and this is what we are familiar as academic students. So this is on implementing new materials in a project. So this will be as a trial for most of the projects. So it starts with reviewing existing data and research. Then we engage with researchers, suppliers, and stakeholders to get to know about this material, and then we run trials, collect evidence, and assess performance. And finally, we use that evidence to update specifications in some cases so that material can be used more widely. That's how ideas move from lab to into the real world projects. So I wanted to highlight here the importance of trials. we can begin by implementing these new materials in temporary elements, non-structural elements, or low-risk structural elements as a trial. But the key final step is updating the specifications or building confidence of these materials so that these materials can be embedded into projects more widely. So that way the efforts doesn't stop at a trial, but it results in an incremental and meaningful change. So now I want to talk about two projects that you might not immediately call innovation because there's no new binder or a new SCM or a brand new material here. But in the industry, this is innovation because it's about removing barriers, building confidence, and making better materials usable in real life projects. So the first project, this is one of the first projects I worked at Arup, and it's still one of my favorite projects. So we did this project with Austroads. We engaged with all the transportation agencies in Australia and New Zealand. This is on carbon reduction and the use of low carbon concrete, which we have investigated barriers to implement low carbon concrete across Australia and New Zealand transportation infrastructures. So the project started with a literature review. So as a part of this review, we reviewed all the lot of research publications available on like new kind of materials and available EPDs, roadmaps, etc. Then we consulted the industry stakeholders to get their opinion and view on barriers, and we finally published a research paper with a suggested roadmap for these agencies. The research report was published recently, like last month. And if you're interested in learning more about the work, you can always go refer to the research paper. But we are also running a webinar with Austroads on this project on 23rd of April. So you're very welcome to join. And link, you should be able to find the link on Austroads' website. So these are all the stakeholders we engaged for the project. So we had more than 26 sessions. So we had representation from both demand side and supply side. As part of the demand side, we engaged with all the transportation agencies in Australia and New Zealand. As part of the supply side, we engaged with concrete and cement suppliers, industry organizations like CCAA, CIA, MECLA, neighbors, etc. We also had 2 full-day workshops with more than 50 contractors and precasters in each session. So in these sessions, instead of asking why isn't low carbon concrete used more, we asked what are the actual barriers. So what we found was that the barriers were often not only technical, they were about risks, confidence, and processes. So after these sessions, we have summarized all these barriers we found out and suggested pathways to overcome these barriers. So our key recommendation was to have a task force or a national body to implement and lead these pathways to overcome barriers. Then we also suggested a phased transition to net zero. It included 3 phases. Phase 1 included lowering the carbon footprint of concrete, which is about using the currently available SCMs in projects. Phase 2 was about supporting development of alternative SCMs starting from now to use when we don't have SCMs, currently available SCMs anymore. And phase 3 was about developing very low or zero carbon concrete. So yeah, this is a summary of the project work with Austroads, and if you want to know more, please join our webinar on 23rd of April. The second project is on the work we did with New South Wales DQ, Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water, and New South Wales Councils. So this is another project I love because this made me understand how the structure of the demand for an organization from the demand side work when we need them to change some of their processes. So phase 1 of this project actually started before I joined Arup. So the project started by developing low carbon concrete specifications for 3 government agencies. So those were Health Infrastructure New South Wales, Water Infrastructure New South Wales, and Bradfield City Council. So together with these low carbon concrete specs, we have developed few fact sheets on how to calculate carbon of concrete and what are ICMs, what is recycled concrete aggregates, and a fact sheet on frequently asked questions. Then phase 2 of the project was with 10 councils on knowledge sharing of low carbon concrete. So we ran 20 sessions in total. So session 1 focused on an introduction to low carbon concrete. So this session included understanding concrete and low carbon concrete materials and recycled materials, use of low carbon concrete in practice, and innovation and future trends. So session 2 was about integrating low carbon concrete requirements into council projects and processes. So in here we discuss about regulatory and certification compliance, supply capabilities, how to implement low carbon concrete in projects, specification and design, and some of the case studies with low carbon concrete. So at the end of this project, we have developed an interactive playbook with a summary of low carbon concrete and who are the stakeholders in adopting low carbon concrete, and how and where these stakeholders fit in the actions throughout a project timeline. Then phase 3 of the project was to develop templates and documents to move low carbon concrete from special to business as usual in councils. So in this map, phase 3 actually sits in alignment and action. So from previous sessions, we had an understanding as to what kind of problems they have and what kind of support they need as a council to implement low carbon concrete. So we divided the whole council structure and documents that we will be developing into 5 modules. So those included, you can't see that at the bottom, but those included leadership module. If you want to implement low carbon concrete in a council, you need to get the buy-in from the leaders. And then it included sustainable design module, where we have introduced why you should measure carbon, how to measure carbon, and all the requirements for different applications. And then procurement module, about we had checklist on like what to check when you procure low carbon concrete. And then implementation module, we had checklists on like at the site, what do you need to check if you want to implement low carbon concrete. And then at the end, planning approval module, where if you need to get approvals from the council for low carbon concrete, what are the different ways you can do that. So within these 5 modules, we also divided these documents depending on the project scale. So one of the interesting things to notice here is while doing this project, we actually talked to our change management people here at Arup, and the conversation was so inspiring because sometimes we are so focused on technical parts without thinking how people will react to all these documents and suggestions we give them. So getting to know and brainstorm ideas on how to present the same content to the councils without making them overwhelmed was really interesting. So it's like saying things like, okay, this is the process you already do, and if you change this bit, you'll be able to implement low carbon concrete. So, which I found really interesting and fascinating to even think about. So I wanted to bring these 2 projects just as well to mention innovation does not really have to be implementing something new in the industry. So now I want to talk a bit more personally about some of my thoughts and learnings while working at Arup. So as I mentioned earlier, when we talk about innovation, it's easy to think about new materials or new technologies, but the biggest gap in construction is not only technical. So we already have strong research and viable low carbon options. For example, SCNs have been researched for more than 30 years. What we struggle is with adoption, confidence, and alignment. So innovation isn't just can this work, it's about can this work here in this project with these constraints and with these stakeholders. So that move from proof to practice is where many good ideas stop. So what I've realized is in academia, going deep into a problem is essential. We research about one topic for more than 3 years, and our goal is to answer questions as accurately as possible. So when I first moved to the industry, I thought my biggest challenge would be technical, but it was not. So the biggest shift was learning that decisions are often made at the beginning of the project with incomplete information, time frames are shorter, projects move faster with so many things happening at the same time. I also learned that industry is not necessarily anti-research, it's very risk-aware. People do care about innovation, but they also carry responsibility for the safety. They need to think about cost, they need to think about the program, reputation, and the durability of these materials. So again, taking SEMs as an example, they are very well researched, but stakeholders still need confidence to implement these materials in projects. And they still want to know about what's the supply chain, approvals, and accountability of these materials. So that's why how we evaluate evidence and how we present these evidence to clients really matters, and that leads to innovation. And innovation is not just about what we build, it's about how we work together. Collaboration is everything. Today, projects asking us to reduce carbon, extend the asset life of this element, or incorporate circular materials, and still deliver faster and safer infrastructure. So making these sustainable decisions as the default option is not the responsibility of just the materials team or just the sustainability specialist or university researchers. Innovation happens in meetings, procurement decisions, construction planning, and communication. So at the same time, we also need to be comfortable asking why things are done in a certain way and then working together to change them. So how do we bridge the gap between research and real world application? I think this is not easy, but from my experience, I think these 3 things matter most. Reframing success. First, success looks different in academia and industry. So in academia, success might be about researching on a completely new idea, publishing a new paper, or getting a grant on like a novel idea. But in the industry, success might be change in specification language, incorporating an already existing material requirements into a specification, or a pilot that gives decision makers confidence. So in industry, success is adoption. And then the second one is language of delivery. Sometimes in the industry, all that matters is answering questions like what problems does this solve, what risks does this material introduce, or what are the benefits, or how can we, what would stop this from being used in this project. So, and all these questions, answering all these questions without being too technical, because we need to explain things in single language, because it's a team working together, and that we are trying to convince this team with different disciplines. And we can be technical if the client wants to build more confidence in this material in specific cases. And third one is valuing collaboration over ownership. Collaboration matters more than individual ownership, and it's about trust and shared risk, and that's how actually the ideas move forward. I'll finish with few reflections. First, think and do what makes you happy. If you want to move to the industry from academia, think all the possibilities through and make a decision so that you don't regret later, and work hard towards it. And then expertise starts with curiosity. You don't need to know everything, you just need to be curious and really willing to learn. This is one of the things I learned, because in academia we are so isolated, we are solving everything alone. And but here in industry we are working as a team. if you don't know the answer, instead of giving the wrong answer, just be comfortable saying like, I'll get back to you with the correct answer later. There are specialists for different things at Arup and any other consultancy, and I can always ask them. It was overwhelming for me at first because they have been in the industry for longer, and I was like, can I ask these questions? Is my question done? But then you realize like people are actually nice. They will go above and beyond to help you, and I will do the same if somebody comes to me with a question. Third one is your network is part of your skill set. The relationships you build now with your mentors, peers, that will bring you opportunities you might not even see yet. If networking doesn't come naturally to you, it's fine. I'm the same. I sometimes plan it. I listen to presentations and then I think about a question and then later introduce myself with that question, and I'll start the conversation, and that's still networking. Yeah, that's all from me. Looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Panellists to the stage if they're here. I don't know if some have walked away, but Joan from Arup, please come up. Chen from Mott, MacDonald. Chani Tennakoon from Independent Cement. And Zhang. I saw him just duck out.
Literally just walked off. So.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll get started anyway. And then after this, we'll do some networking as well. But yeah, thank you everyone. A round of applause for our panellists. Okay, can everyone hear me? All right, perfect. So, oh, here he comes. Everyone, round of applause. So the topic for tonight's conversation is innovation in the next gen, and I think actually, Sachi, you really captured that brilliantly. I think when we talk about innovation, actually I'm not even going to talk about it because I'm going to let you talk about it, but I think when we talk about the next generation, I think we think of the younger generation coming through, but actually it's also the future of the industry and what that looks like. So I want to just talk a little bit about, I might get you all to just introduce yourselves and then tell us a little bit about your role and duplicates. This is weird. Ooh. Oh, right. Okay. Hi. Yeah. So, Joan, let's start with you. Could you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role and ultimately how you came into that role?
I'm the Global Climate and Sustainability Services Leader for Arup, and I'm reminded of a saying which is, the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. And so a lot of my job is to find bits of the future or really strong practice in one part of the world or in one industry, and as quickly as possible get it to another part of the world. So as an example, we have a global highways business. In Europe, they're really focused on asset management because the roads and streets of Europe have largely been built. So when they come over here and see all the huge capital projects in Australia and see how we're using the buying power of those major projects to signal to the market how we want the supply chain to change, they think that's innovative. They think it's hugely innovative, and that's the kind of learning that they've taken back to Europe. So there's a lot of innovation here that's been going out that way, and at the same time, there's lots of really interesting nature-based solutions in China that we're learning from and that's being transferred over to the US, for example. Yeah, so it's all the fun stuff.
Amazing, thank you. Sam, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks everyone. Thanks for inviting me back to the office. Yeah, it's really nice to be here.
Yeah, who got him in?
And I'm Chen. I'm from Mott, MacDonald. I'm the materials lead, and then looking at materials, sustainable materials, and the durable materials. And how I got into the role because I love concrete, so concrete led me open up the opportunity for me to get into the role that I'm currently in. And then when you talk about innovation in the next generation, I think I'm related to the next generation. I'm still the next generation, I think. Yeah, and then I think that's why I'm passionate about innovation as well. I think innovation is with us. I think we are kind of at the forefront of what is new, what is coming up, and then we have the responsibility to bring the new things into our real world business, and then I think that's part of our responsibility as the next generation.
Yeah, amazing, thank you. I'm Chani.
Hi everyone, I'm Chani and I'm technical manager for Independent Cement and Lime. So I love cement, maybe more than concrete because we supply cement into concrete, so I should love cement. So part of my role in ICL is make sure customers are aware there are low carbon mine options, and I direct them to use more supplementary cementitious material and use the supplementary material in correct way to get durability and other properties, low carbon and other things in concrete. So, and also I've been actually doing some work with AS 3972 and AS 1379 supply of concrete and cement standard. We were fortunate, the timing is right, we were fortunate to introduce alternative cementitious material to these standards to get next level of carbon reduction in concrete. So that's about me.
Amazing, thank you. And Nan.
Hi everybody, my name is Zhang. I'm research fellow at Swinburne University. So actually now I'm very excited. I'm a concrete guy as well. I'm very like concrete very much. So actually before my PhD, I worked in China in industrial construction industry for 7 years for concrete field. But I thought that is not enough. I want to continue to study. So I come here to study my PhD again after graduation. So I say, oh, it's not enough for innovation. So I want to make some bridge between industry and academia. So that's why I decided to stay at university.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this is all about, making sure that we're working collaboratively as an ecosystem rather than separately so we can actually create great change. When we talk about innovation in the next gen, I know we've kind of touched on this, but Joan, what does that mean to you when you hear that?
I'm part of the adoption ecosystem more than the technical innovation. So in case you didn't know, Sam used to work for Arup. And I would listen to people who were very confident and impressive with their technical innovation. And my whole goal is to get it into the projects. A lot of the time for me, it's about dealing with the barriers. So as an example, one of the real barriers to getting the materials on site, aside from insurance and distance and habits and culture, is will the client be willing to pay the premium, like the actual extra cost of scaling a material until we get to an economies of scale. And so that becomes a negotiation between the suppliers and the demanders with some intermediaries. So that's a really specific, big conversation that we can convene. Now, who should convene that? We have industry bodies, we have research bodies, and then we have people like Arup, who's, our business isn't concrete, but our biggest impact on the world is how we specify materials, so we will use our discretionary time to try and convene these things. So in terms of innovation, for me at Arup and for a lot of people in our industry is that tangible impact of taking things that we learn in other settings into actual projects. And people get really, really inspired by that. So I might just go on for one more minute. Of course.
Go.
I in the Major Roads Projects Victoria, MRPV, when Alan Garner, who's the CEO, showed up at work and said, right, my legacy will be to solve the waste crisis through the roads projects. And his idea of the ecologic program, the recycled content program, he was just extremely laser focused on getting those materials onto the projects. And every day he would show up and said, is it in the project yet? Is it in the project yet? Is it in the project yet? And he wouldn't listen to us saying, oh, well, the insurance won't cover it, or people are worried about microplastics, or the suppliers don't exist. He didn't care about that. He said, is it in the project? And so when you have that singular focus, then you kind of work backwards from there. So you really do need to be very bloody minded to overcome the really difficult parts of innovation.
But I think that's as well what we need to focus on, is actually looking this at holistically as well. And I think there's so many moving parts, and what I've found in the industry is that so many people are so ready to blame someone else, but it's like, how do we actually collaborate well on this, and how do we actually all work together? Sam, I'll pass over to you as well. What does innovation in the next gen mean for you?
I think as the next generation, I think our responsibility is to challenge the last generation. So most of the people who tend to do things as it is, instead of do things differently or innovatively. I think that's the innovative part in the next generation, and then that's very important. I think that's how I look at things. And sometimes when we use concrete, for example, I love concrete, and then when I started, I think I saw a lot of projects where they use concrete without SCMs, and a lot of people know SCM, what SCM is, and I was very frustrated because it doesn't make any sense, and then from sustainability benefit, and then from sustainability perspective, from durability perspective, it doesn't make any sense. So that's why I thought, probably we should challenge what people are currently doing, and then change the status quo, and then change what should be innovative as make it become business as usual. And I think as the next generation, I think that's what we should do. Yeah. That's the innovative part in the innovation in next generation.
Yeah, and you might have left Arup, but that business as usual got brought up before, and I like that. So I'm going to keep using that one. Chani, to you, what does innovation mean?
For me, rather than using brand new material, brand new technology in our construction projects, the way we think about project has to be changed. Rather than giving a priority to low upfront cost, I think people has to think about what is the value of this service life of this project. We have to do things to improve the carbon durability or long-term performance, and also shift the mind towards performance-based thinking, performance-based standards type of thing, rather than we focus on how we do things. We have to focus what is the outcome we want. So for that, I think collaboration is the key. As Sachinthani highlighted, I think collaboration helps. So we have to align people, systems, and resources together to get better sustainable outcome in construction projects. That's what I think next innovation should be like.
Yeah, amazing. And Nan, you haven't spoken about it, but one of the big things you've done at Swinburne is a lot around 3D concrete printing as well. So that is a brand new innovation. We talk about innovation sometimes as new things, but as Sachi said as well, actually improving on the things that already exist. But you're working in a brand new technology. Talk to us a little bit about innovation from your perspective.
Yeah, so actually I'm doing 3D concrete printing, but not just the 3D concrete printing. Yeah, so but for me, innovation for the next generation is to change the world, and slowly but safely. I think that is good. Yeah, but need to change. So to get the world better. Yeah, so that's why now I'm introduced with concrete printing, because we think this technology can address increase the productivity, construction productivity, and save materials as well. And we can use new materials, low carbon concrete as well, to do analysis. So compared compared to other industries, construction industry is very, a little bit, I don't know how to say, but we need to introduce some new technology to push construction industry to digitalization. Yeah, so I think that is the thing.
Yeah, can you talk to us a little bit more about that while you've got the mic? Digital technologies are playing a huge role in the industry at the moment. So what does the future look like for us? Like, I think it was great kind of what you were saying, Joan, around like the future is now and it exists now. What are some of the innovations and some digital technologies that are coming up through the space that you think are going to have real impact?
Yeah, so I think Arup is also is a guy before doing 3D concrete printing as well. So yeah, but so it's my colleagues. Yeah, so and for digital construction, I think BIM is now is regulated and generally use it. So this is good technology, but depends on the our region. So like in Australia, maybe it's very popular using BIM, but in China, I come from China State Construction Engineering and Operation. So the company don't like use BIM because they have to think about the perfect. So if we use BIM, so that means the process will very fast to finish. So that is not good for them. So yeah, so that's why we need to negotiate and collaborating each other to get the balance. Yeah, so for 3D concrete printing, actually in China we printed two-level buildings 10 years ago already. So that means this is 3D concrete printing is not future technology. It is already here. But the problem is, so industry don't have confidence to use this technology because they don't know, and still many works for 3D concrete printing finished in the lab, so rather than on site. So when we move this technology to site part, so maybe we will meet some unimpacted issues. So that's why we need to continue to try do some trials, and if we get some feedback, I can very quickly to fix it.
Yeah, actually that's a brilliant segue into my next question. Is we're talking about this complex ecosystem and that there's so many moving parts within it. I might pass to you, Chani. Where do you think you see like the biggest disconnects between stakeholders and innovation?
I think mostly we see it's at handover time when actually designers specify things to ideal scenarios, and then contractors try to build things for real world constraints, and then suppliers try to make it work. So that's when everything is falling apart, right? So we have to start from the beginning, like I think asset owners, designers, and also the contractors, suppliers, they have to work together at the starting point rather than work in silos. So before anything is locked up, before any decisions has been made, then it's easier for everyone to discuss what constraints we have. For example, in supply perspective, if I see in Victoria, we have shortage or lack of certain supplementary cementitious material, but maybe designers put maybe 35% fly ash in mixes, but we realize, okay, fly ash in Victoria sometimes not easy for every part of Victoria. These things has to be discussed openly. That's what I think. Maybe we wait for the last minute to open up the constraints, and that's the disconnection happening here.
And Sam, I know you said you're part of the NEXGen, you're young. And by the way, no one ever leaves the NEXGen, let's be honest. But you've also had experience you've worked across multiple different organisations. What do you believe is the ultimate disconnect as well?
I think it's how the information flows from the stakeholder to the academics or public design companies. I think there's no a physical body to regulate the information and inform every party involved in the process. So everyone who is involved in the process is constantly get updated and where we're at and how we can address this risk and how we can mitigate the risk and etc. Because every party is kind of disconnected. And so we need kind of like an information flow in there, connect everyone together, and how to solve that problem. I think sometimes most of my role is like connecting people together, and because I have a connection with academics and I know what is available on the market or what is will be available in the market in the next few years, and I present that information to contractors and to designers for them to consider this innovation in their design. And then when they consider this innovation, they would understand, oh, probably there's something else we need from the academics, and then for us to incorporate this innovation in our design, for contractor to implement this material on their project, and then stakeholder would be more informed to understand if it can be implemented, if it's available, and what the risks are. So I think there's a need for the information to connect and then with all the parties there.
Yeah, amazing. Joan, I want to quickly jump to you. As you know, we've got a lot of decarbonisation targets globally. I think we were talking about this earlier about how this need and want to kind of make things faster. From where you sit, do you think that we're on track, or do we have to kind of almost look backwards and see how far we've come?
I look backwards to motivate myself to keep going. If you're the next gen and you care about the environment and the world, which I hope you do, you might feel frustrated or anxious about the state of the world and the climate. As someone who's not next gen, I'm like current gen. My kids are getting old enough that I might be old gen soon. The way I keep going is I say to people, when I was in university, we were still talking about whether or not the environment was important. And we've stopped talking about that. We've accepted that, of course, we need to look after the environment. The debate is about how and when and those sorts of things. So there's a bit of perspective on that. So that keeps me going, and also I remind myself that change is non-linear. Because we're talking about renegotiating supply chains and value chains, there's just a lot of setup. There's just a lot of setup and lining things up, renegotiating the boundaries of when this company begins and this risk is taken on. And once it's set up, then things can change really quickly. So I say, even though progress looks slow, keep going, because it could change tomorrow. So that's kind of like the first part of the question. As to how quickly will things change, I got to go to my first COP, so the UN Conference of Parties in Brazil last year, and everyone has settled on industrial decarbonisation as a phrase. So it used to be things like hard to abate or green industries or something like that, but it's industrial decarbonisation. And there's a huge amount of money flowing specifically to cement, steel, and I think there's some kind of low carbon liquid fuels. There will be electrification targets for the things that can be electrified, and then there'll be a discussion of CCUS, carbon capture utilization and storage. Basically, the eye of Sauron in terms of climate policy is going to turn to industry. Hopefully something more supportive. And so all of the funding from what I've seen around the world is going into this focus on industry. So I'm quite hopeful that people will start not just planning for it, but start flowing it into projects and grants.
And just while you have the mic, so you talk about internationally, I think sometimes as an industry we're always like, well, Europe is doing this and China's doing this, and we always make out that Australia is actually doing really badly. How does Australia sit in terms of innovation? And I don't judge it off the innovation scale, but how are we actually sitting as an industry?
Oh, Jesus is hard. I mean, we have the big, all right, number one, concrete cement, it's a local industry, right? It's local, everything is local. So we kind of can't compare ourselves overseas. We can transfer some standards and some ways of procuring overseas, but we have to solve the problem for Australian conditions, with Australian projects, with Australian supply, okay? So that's number one. The second thing, we do have a problem. We do have a problem where a lot of our companies are internationally owned, right? It's hard enough running manufacturing and industry in Australia with our high cost of labour for us to attract the attention of the parent companies to invest in decarbonising our industries here. So a lot of the cement and concrete and other materials companies have worked really, really hard to set up decarbonisation investments in their industry. And the last thing they need is a new government that changes the grants and the investments and the taxes and things like that. So I would say that industry itself is working here extremely hard to maintain the relevance of our industry and against like cost pressure rises. So when I'm working with government, I'm like, industry needs you to keep the policy settings stable. It needs to be completely stable because the industry will invest. Just don't move the goalposts. So that's what we've suffered from for the last couple of years. Queensland, where Jesus, they keep changing things. Stop it, and then we can get going. Rant over.
Banning Queenslanders equally now.
I also want to talk about how we're doing in Australia in terms of innovation. I think we're doing really good because when we talk about innovation, we need to consider the context and then the supply chain we have here. I think a lot of concrete suppliers, now all the major concrete suppliers, they have low carbon concrete product. They don't have to provide this product to us, but they are willing to change. So that's very innovative and brave for them already. They have to disrupt their own business to provide innovative products to us. I think in that, on that note, I think that's very innovative. And then we can't compare to what other countries, the Europeans are doing, because they are really good at branding themselves. I think what I've noticed that we have done a lot of amazing innovations on our major projects, and we don't talk about this innovation that much. So probably for other people from other regions, they perceive us, oh, we're not innovative, but we know that we have done a lot of innovations already. It's just that probably people in other regions, they're not aware of it. And yeah, that's my view on innovations in Australia.
Did anyone else have any thoughts around that?
I will add one comment about cement innovation. I think I agree with Sam. I think Australia is giving high priority to produce low carbon cement. When I compare the rest of world, clinker embodied carbon is much higher, but in Australia, so we use so much alternative fuel to reduce the carbon value. Maybe it's part of safeguard mechanism government recently implemented, but industry has done great job over past 5 years to reduce the carbon emission in binder content, which is significant when it's come to concrete, because most of the carbon in concrete actually associated with the binder, like a cement, like a aggregate and sand and mixture carbon is very little compared to cement carbon. If you change the carbon value in cement 10%, it drops significantly. You can see the value dropping. So I think we tend to learn from US and Europe how to change the binders in carbon perspective. One example is general limestone cement. We have learned lots from US, and we currently produce general limestone cement in Australia. We can reduce carbon up to 10% compared to general purpose cement. So I think it is a two-way thing. We learn from them as well, but we actually give a priority to reduce the carbon in Australia compared to the rest of the world.
And from your lens of cement, just while you have the mic, Chani, in terms of the lens of looking at it from the cement point of view, what are some things that we can actually, what are some viable things that can happen in the next 5 to 10 years that can actually create change?
So I think realistically, the material which can fit into existing infrastructure has the progress compared to rest of the innovations, and also the material or technology we try to implement shouldn't kind of disturb the current process. These are the material which will have a faster progress. And I think most impact would come from low clinker binders and also blended cement, like a supplementary cementitious materials like fly ash and calcined clay. These are the material can easily use without we invest on our current processes. Like for instance, if I want brand new material, LC3 for instance, we have to build a new plant, we have to change kilns way it works, and also other regulation, EPA and other things also matters. I think the innovations are coming from mostly the material we already know and the brand new material to take over the entire construction system, I think.
Yeah, amazing, thank you. Nan, I just want to quickly jump to you. You're talking about 3D concrete printing and potentially the industry not taking it on and expanding on it or making it like commercially viable. If you had your say, if you could like say to the industry right now how we would fix this, what would you say? If you had free reign to just be like, we could do this, but you need to do X, Y, Z, what would you say?
So,
From your lens, I suppose, as the academic, because we can't do what we do and we can't create innovation without academia. So what would be, I guess, the selling point to say we need to work better together?
yeah, of course. So actually, first I would like to say, I want to ask answer the previous question about the innovation in Australia. So I think this is the best area for innovation because there are like SmartCrete CRC and have another CRC to support experts to investigate the ideas, and there are many global academia experts in Australia as well. So I think this is very good because this country is very freedom, I think. Yeah, so that is why they have many ideas from these countries. That's great. But unfortunately, so the industry is very stable. So that's why I think Arup do a very great job here. So because they make bridge, with industry and academia. So to do some innovation work. And so and for 3D concrete printing actually. It's very complex process because including for 3D concrete printing, including materials, process, and construction. So if at the beginning we think about the 3D concrete printing, maybe can change the entire process of construction, but that is not impossible. So if that happens, so I think industry don't want to do that things. So because we need to do some innovative technology which can match existing workflow, but just change a little bit, get better. So that is more. That's why now we are focused on to develop new materials and to introduce new approach in 3D concrete printing. But we don't want to change the structures and something like that. Yeah.
Firstly, thank you for the plug for SmartCrete. I'll give you $20 later. But do you think we need to make, when it comes to, I know I keep coming back to 3D concrete printing, but do you think we need to start making sure that we're investing in projects that are low-risk projects so that we can ultimately see, because part of the problem is, and I find this sometimes, you can't actually grow forward unless you're putting things in place and trying to use them at a low-risk level. So I noticed with new materials and stuff, they put them in pavements because they're like, oh, we can try that out and see if it works. works. Do you think we need to be investing in smaller, low-risk projects when it comes to things like 3D concrete printing?
Yeah, of course, we need to do small project first. So I think SmartCrete already is up, but
there's another $20.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we need to keep going to trial. Otherwise, we can't get an answer and to push the new technology in this country. Yeah. So and another thing is so. By the way, because I think this field we need to research, engineer, and industry work together at the beginning. I think. So to develop this technology. Otherwise, it's very hard to do it because, as I mentioned, including materials, process, and construction method. So yeah, we need to plan properly. Otherwise, as I mentioned before, China and United States before printing a lot houses, but now I didn't see any, a big market because just builders or researchers doing this kind of things, not collaborating teams to develop. So that's, I think, in Australia, I think we need to work together to make it happen.
Yeah, and actually that you're giving these great segues. One of the things we've heard over and over again tonight is business as usual. What does that mean? How do we get there, Chani? How do we get to this point where adoption is so easy it just becomes second nature?
I think like innovations like 3D printing, and also there are other innovative materials coming to market. Lithium byproduct is another thing. But first thing I want to see whether standard specification support for me to use that material. There's a difference between what is possible and what is allowed. And also I want to see proven evidence with the plant level, like not the lab scale. And the third thing is like it should be commercially viable as well, right? We don't want to use something like we pay maybe $500 to supply cement, tissues material into plant. Nobody wants to get that cement or concrete end of the day. So to get into like a speed, like adapt easily, of course, like collaboration, we should start early rather than waiting at the last minute. So if the material is kind of standardized and also repeatable and also practical and has a proven records, like industry will like use it. Like I have seen even our like a cement kind of competitors like Bora Cement or Shira, they have been doing lots of work around new materials. It's not like industry is rejecting. It's not like 10 years ago, nobody wants to touch new things. Now it's changed. The timing is good. But of course, it's risky. Construction carries lots of risk. We have to acknowledge that. And I think for going back to Zhang's point, so for having a good project, we can use new material or new technology to see a clear advantage and improve the database around that material, which helps. Then people can see, okay, this is working, and we can have a like a case studies as well to see that material is reliable. So then, yeah, I think then industry will adapt that, yeah, easily.
Did anyone else have any thoughts about business as usual? Yes.
I'll probably just jump in quickly. Because just back to your previous question about pilot projects, and we have done a lot of pilot programs with different clients on different projects. And I think that's very important, as Chani said, it's a good way to collecting all the information that we need and to make it become business as usual. And I think one thing that I find, even though we have done a lot of pilot program, but we still got questions from people, can we use it? And I have to repeat my answer again, we have done it already, and we have done it on multiple projects. I think that raise a question, I think it's the awareness. I think we have a lot of successful stories, but we're just not sharing those stories enough for people to aware. This actually is already a business as usual, but it's not the pilot anymore. So I think that's a very important part.
Yeah, and I 1000% agree. That's why we do sessions like this, because of knowledge transfer, right? We need to make sure that everyone has that education to actually say, these things are happening and you can use them. We've already proved that they're successful. It's just about educating the industry and all those layers of the industry. It's not just engineers, it's the people that use it at the bottom. It's, you know, contractors and everything. So yeah, I completely agree. Joan?
Sometimes I say to people at Arup that our clients will become dinosaurs. And it's no offense. It is hard to disrupt an established way of working, which is why more often than not, innovation comes from somewhere outside the existing industry. So it's a disruption. You think about like the sharing economy, you get these Ubers that come in and then disrupt a very conservative, slow like taxi system or whatever. I always try to motivate people, like, if we're too slow to change and respond to a fuel crisis, the fact that we run out of sand in Europe or whatever, if we're too slow, then something will come out from outside and disrupt us. So, I mean, just little things. There's a man in Geelong, he rents houses out, like not houses. You buy the house, he puts it on the site, and then he takes it back again in 20 years or whatever, right? That's, the future is here, it's just unevenly distributed. So I think we just have to, we may not just accept that things are slow, we just have to be fearful that they are too slow. We have to be fearful. The construction sector is very conservative because obviously we can kill people, but the medical industry is very conservative and innovation still happens, right? They have innovation at scale, it's part of the business model. I think we just have to accept, we have to not accept the conservatism of the industry.
Yeah, they can happen at the same time. Yeah, I've never thought about it like that. That's amazing. We'll quickly go to Q&A. Does anyone have any questions for our panellists? People are shy. No questions? No? Okay.
Hi, my name is Arup from Alameda University. So speaking about innovation and new technology, since you're bringing new technology, how do you convince the clients to use that technology? Because like, if new technology is purely research, you need testing, small material, like, it's not widely accepted. So how would you convince the clients on using that technology?
I have done a lot of convincing work, so I can answer your question. It's not easy to convince client, and when you have an innovative material, and then the first question they ask, what's the benefit? Why should I spend my effort on this material? And then there's a risk associated with it, and I don't want the risk. So that's the question I get asked all the time. I think before you present the idea to the client, you really need to be very clear about pros and cons, what benefit that you would have, what the risks you would expect, and how to mitigate the risks. And then you present the solution to your client before they even ask the question. I think that's the important part. And also, I think you also need to bring kind of a bigger picture into it. And then, for example, when we say, oh, we need to use calcite clay in Victoria, and then it's not just using a new material. We're solving a supply chain issue here in Victoria because we can't have fly ash in Victoria locally that can be used in concrete. We have to import slags from other states overseas to be able to use it in Victoria. So we bring that bigger picture to the client, and then they understand, oh, this is not just about innovation, this is about a bigger change, bigger innovation. So they will be more innovative to jump on board and then do the innovation, do the hard work together with you. So that's my experience.
Amazing, thank you. Did anyone else have any other questions? Yes, up the back there. Don't mind me clicking all the way over.
Thank you very much for interesting discussion. I'm Thorn from University of Melbourne, and as an academic, it's very interesting to see the new definition of innovation. I like to pick two key points from the panel discussion about the complexity of the whole supply chain and the premium cost of innovation. We have a complex problem to solve and a complex supply chain. So who wanna pay for innovation? Who wanna finance that? Will that be the client or will that be the consultant like Arup or Mott MacDonald as part of their long-term benefit? Or will it be supplier like Chani? So who will be the key enabler in that complex process?
The government. It depends what the innovation is for. If it's for public benefit, then ultimately the premium or the risk is mostly borne by government. And so the argument you make is this is the most cost-effective way to achieve wider policy benefits. So it becomes an economic discussion rather than a financial discussion. The difference being economic is benefits and costs for all, financial is benefits and costs for an organisation. So if it's for a public benefit, possibly the government, the point where you get a private company to pay for that innovation is because they think they can turn that economic benefit into a financial advantage for them. That happens through competitive procurement, for example. So there are lots of contractors who will invest in innovation if it helps them win the job. Okay, and that job may be for the government and they may signal that. I also have people running with innovation because it's part of their personal pay packet. There are companies where the executives have incentives for certain KPIs because the company is part of their strategy. And so they'll look for innovation and they might pick something that's more expensive than business as usual because it's the best of all the innovations available to you. So there's reasons why a private company would innovate, but most of the time it's a struggle, I think.
I think my answer would be slightly different. I totally agree with what you said. My answer would be slightly different because if the innovation is really, really benefit for the entire community society, I think there will be alignment between government, supplier, contractor, designer. If there's an alignment, I think they're all willing to contribute to it, even though there is a social premium cost with it. I think that cost can be shared by all parties involved. It doesn't have to be government cover all the costs. It doesn't have to be suppliers to cover all the costs. It can be shared by everyone because everyone can benefit from it if it's a really good innovation.
Yeah, maybe I can answer some questions. So because I'm academia, but I think first for company, the focus on profit. If there's no any profit, they don't want to do anything. Because if they change the supply chain, anything, so they have to pay a cost money. Yeah, this is, when I do research, I always think what the company want to pay for my research. Yeah, so and another thing is so for innovation, we have IP is very important for company as well. So if the IP is belong to the university, maybe the company is not really interested in. So that's why we need to negotiate. Yeah, so it's very important.
I think we have another question.
Thanks, Estelle. Andrew Sachinthani. On behalf of the CIA, congratulations, SmartCrete. There's another $20.
Thank you.
Well done, Sachi, on a great presentation earlier, and thanks to this esteemed panel. Yeah, it's been a really interesting debate and question time. So thank you so much for all the value. I have a couple of questions, if I may. One is about long-term durability. Concrete, as we know, is a very durable material. Unfortunately, we have to put steel in it, which concrete has traditionally protected very well. when we're talking about a lot of innovation, I'm interested in your thoughts as a panel about the durability of concrete long term. And I guess the context of that is all about major asset owners are asking for design lives of now 100, 20, 50 years, and where is that going to end? So I'm really interested in the work for the future of where durability is. And perhaps the second question would be the role of AI in developing some of this innovation, because clearly AI is going to become, in all of our lives, much more important. And how do you see the role of AI used for good in this space? So thank you very much.
Maybe I will comment on both a little bit and pass the mic to others. So regarding durability, Andrew, I think you all will agree, like when we design concrete for sustainability, most of the time it will comply the durability issues as well. For instance, if I want to design my concrete for 100-year service life, thinking about like marine environment, for instance, I want to add 65% slag for my concrete to reduce the carbon ingress, like reduce the corrosion after 100 years. So it is a part of that low carbon, and also it gives additional advantage in terms of durability. So, and also when we are keep innovating to reduce the carbon, we find the way to improve our concrete, like we find other things as well. It's not only we reduce the carbon, we find, okay, now the concrete has this property, we haven't thought about it. So, and second thing you asked about AI, I will comment on cement perspective, cement supply perspective. At the moment, I think in like a cement industry, it's not using AI widely in like a plant optimization or other operation aspects, but saying that we are using it for analyzing the data, like we get the confidence on how things are working with the cement, like characteristics and other parameters hence, but operations wise, I think we haven't done much in that area yet.
It's just first the durability question. I think that's the question we often get asked, and then before any other questions. Yeah, and I think for innovations, that's the first thing we look at, the durability performance, and then even we look at durability before its sustainability benefit. Yeah, if there's no long-term durability performance, then probably we won't pitch the idea to client and present the innovation to client. And then, yeah, as Chani mentioned, and then we have to do a lot of tests in the lab and then even on field, and then take samples from pilot trials that we did, and to analysis the sample and how it performs over the last few months or last year to understand its durability performance in field. So that's the thing that we definitely need to look at. I think in the future, probably look ahead, and then in terms of durability, it would be great if we would design a bridge that can last 200 years, 300 years. But the current design code is not up to date to allow us to provide information, provide guidance for us to design a structure that can last 200 years, 300 years. That's something we can think about. And there is a bridge in Queensland they designed for 200 years. So there is a project out there already. So why don't we just keep doing that? I think that's something we need to look at. And then to the second question, AI, I've been thinking about AI because I'm kind of concerned if I get replaced by AI. But after a lot of thinking about it, I feel like I'm not worried about AI, especially about innovation, because AI is a really powerful tool to identify correlations and patterns, but AI doesn't necessarily generate new knowledge. It generates new information, but it doesn't necessarily generate new knowledge. That's why we still need academics, and who probably some apple fall from the tree, there's a new big invention come out. So that's still like we need academics and a research organization and SmartCrete, another $20, can facilitate this process. AI definitely can accelerate the innovation, but I don't think AI necessarily generate new innovation. So that's my view on AI.
I think that we just spent a week I was in London, we're looking at the use of AI in our industry, and a lot of it was really inspiring actually. So I think AI will affect the materials industry in the broad because of our ability to track materials and the provenance. Like if you find the whole EPD discussion or even nature in the supply chain, all of that, it's all data, it's very laborious to track, but we want to make good decisions with it. So I think AI will deal with that information flow really well, and we should be thankful for it. The second one is the combination of AI with visual data information, remote sensing, sensors. It may be that we can track that durability better and in real time and post disasters a lot more. One of the things we've been looking at is using sensors on electricity infrastructure after bushfires and floods in order to show how they actually perform, because the fragility curves on those assets is very conservative, and the whole goal is to reduce the insurance costs for those assets. So using AI to really understand the performance of our assets so that we can apply our conservatism appropriately. And the last one is, we saw an example in Hong Kong. We did some work for the architecture department in Hong Kong where they did millions of options and assessments for architecture, in this case optimizing for the low carbon design of many buildings in Hong Kong. And I think maybe the best way to reduce the carbon intensity of cement and concrete is to use less of it. so maybe we can use cement more because we've actually optimized the design. They can easily get 50% reduction through design optimization. And that's where we should be applying our efforts rather than asking clients to pay a premium for materials that are at smaller scale. Like step one, use less stuff. Step one, make it really durable so you never have to intervene. Step two, use less stuff. Step three, replace stuff.
Amazing, thank you. Oh, we might have quick time for one quick question.
I try to be quick, and before I pose my question, I would like to have a short response to Andrew's question. Yes. Usually it's the first question about the durability, because I'm doing the research of that. I can introduce myself. I have a PhD degree in Europe, and this is my second PhD degree in MIT. Yes, thank you for presentation and thank you for presenting. And to answer Andrew's question, I'd like to quote Jonas said, the future is already there. It's just an uneven distribution. So we mentioned that for the durability, of course, definitely in the time we need maybe 30 years to retest it. But now we already have some technology, because I'm doing the durability simulations, I get some technology. And that will introduce my question. Really is like the future is already there, but how could we gather all the elements of innovation? It's like we get a new summit, get a new technology, 3D print, and I get simulations of durability for long-term performance. But it's hard to get everybody together. And so you will get a workshop, we get seminars, that's good. But I don't think it's enough. But I have a handful idea. Maybe we should draw more attention. We put more resources in the whole project, especially in the conceptualization part, because that part is the best timing for all the elements joined together. But we should put more attention, more money, more resources for that. So my question is, how could we facilitate such a process? How could we, Sachin mentioned the barriers, and Sam mentioned the information flows. Yes. I thought, how could we facilitate such a process? I thought, Yes, and back to the second question about the AI rules. Yes, I almost agree with Sam that because just before this presentation, I have a very short discussion with Nine. Yes, and then when we talk in front with people, yes, I can interpret my ideas maybe 5 minutes, but if you read my papers, it's 30 pages. I don't think AI could drive my idea in seconds, but at this stage, I thought in future, the view. Yes, and my question is how can we facilitate such a, get all the innovation elements. The future is already there, but we haven't get it together.
SmartCrete.
Pretty much. So are you getting your $20 there?
By the way, my boss is going to be really upset I spent all our budget on name dropping, but
Probably I can quickly answer that question. Yeah, because our project, and as such, you're probably very familiar with it, we'll always have like a workshop session, and it's a regular workshop session, and then bring everyone to the workshop, and then do brainstorm and then run ideas, and then everyone bring their their concerns onto the table, and then we address their concerns. So that's how we are able to do a lot of pilot program, do a lot of Australian first trials. Yeah, so there is a mechanism there on project.